Hi Detoxers, this week I am going to bring up the topic of bulk cooking. If there was one thing that helps you create success aside from meal planning and just being intentional and organized is bulk cooking, and really bulk cooking is a part of it. If you approach every single meal and you open up the fridge and you're just looking at a whole pile of ingredients, you will feel overwhelmed. That's all great when you're excited to make something and you have lots of time and the people you're feeding appreciate it. But when you're just trying to put together the pieces of the program, and more importantly, when you're making this a part of your lifestyle, there is so much advantage to bulk cooking. Bulk cooking allows you to eat the way you want to eat and have the leftovers and the snacks and the things that are going to allow you to be busy and travel and go to work and head to the games and take your kids places and still be eating and nourishing yourself the way that you want to. So this comes back to what I say all the time in this program, is that you're shooting to plan once, prep once, cook once, and eat the food from that 2 to 3 times. So it's a lot about repurposing and thinking ahead. So I'm going to give you a couple options and a few of my sort of best ways to do this so that you get a lot of advantage to this. So on a Thursday night is the day that I often will sit down and I will do my meal planning. I like to get the shopping out of the way on a different day than the days that I'm doing a prep. The reason being is I generally, unless it's a January stormy cold day and I don't mind putting around the kitchen, I want to spend as little time as possible. So if I do my shopping on a Friday or a Saturday, and even if I take my lunch hour on a Friday, it just helps me make this seem so much easier. Small chunks of time as opposed to big ones. But if I am going to put any time together, it's typically on a Sunday. That is my bulk cooking day, and this happens 52 weeks of the year, all the time. So what I'll do on a Sunday is I will usually fill my fridge with a few different things. And this is how it looks for me, is if I am chopping and cooking and prepping some vegetable or meat or something for one meal, I'm doing it for a few. So let me tell you what that means. On a Sunday, I will typically take my vegetables and I will bring them all out on my island here, which by the way is like probably my best kitchen piece that I have. And I will make sure it's all washed and prepped, and I go ahead and I make it so it's all usable, right? So I make it as easy as possible. No, I do not put it in bowls like this, but I definitely put it all out within, and I use a really big cutting board. I find this is one of the easiest ways for me to be able to move through a lot of prep really quickly. So I have already sent you one of my videos, Kitchen Gadgets with Dr. Heather Denniston. Those are all the different things that I use that make prep a lot easier. One of them being a really nice knife like this, a chef knife. So this is a place where I will spend a lot of my time when I'm bulk cooking. This is how I go about it. When I wake up on a Monday morning, especially in the winter time, or maybe 10 months of the year, the thing that I want to see in my fridge is I want to have a very large dry salad. What I mean by dry salad is I'm going to use at least something as big as this, maybe even as big as this, that is full of a salad that doesn't have dressing on it. And I typically won't add any nuts or anything that can go a bit soggy, but I will definitely put in all the different accoutrements. The key to a great salad is you want to have as many textures and colors and as much freshness as possible. If you buy all your produce at a really bad store and everything's limp and it's all flown in from parts of the world unknown, you are going to find that the vitality of the components of what you're making your vegetables with or your meals isn't very good. So I would definitely encourage you to buy the highest quality ingredients that you can. And in doing so, you're going to notice they taste so much better. So when I make a dry salad, I'll go ahead and I'll start with some sort of base, of course, like a romaine, or oftentimes multiple sources of lettuce. So whatever green I'm using, I may end up using some bok choy, some romaine lettuce, I may use radicchio, whatever that is, I will go ahead and fill that up. At the same time, I'm going to take cabbage, typically red cabbage, and I will cut that up into very small pieces, dice that, throw that in there, and then I start to layer it. So whatever vegetables I want, whether it's celery, or I'm using fennel, or I'm using carrots, or I'm using sweet bell peppers, whatnot, I start layering it up and layering it up and layering up. I also love to use a lot of microgreens in my salads. I just think they give a really nice dimension and tons of nutrients. So once I have my salad made, and typically I'll have two. I'll have one that I'm making for tonight, and then I'll have one that I'm putting in the fridge that I can use to pull from lunches, tomorrow's dinner, or whatnot. At the same time that I'm prepping that, if I have the celery out to go into here, I'm also cutting it up into a big Tupperware container over here, so I have a ton of raw vegetables. All right, so that makes it super simple. If I'm cutting up celery for that, I can be cutting up big long stalks of celery that are gonna go into my raw vegetable tray as well. And I have one that has a nice plastic lid on the top, and it stays in my fridge. And that way I can pull a few things from there and I can put it in my kids' lunch, or I can put it in my lunch, or I can snack on it, and so on. Makes it super easy. Soups are also one of my sort of benchmark foods, especially in the winter time. So if I'm doing all of that cutting up, at the same time, I might be starting the base of soup over there. So I've got the coconut oil or the avocado oil in the bottom of the pan. I'm sauteing garlic and I'm starting to saute onions, and then I start putting in all my vegetables. Now, for some of you, that's like, you're what? That's way too many things to be doing at once. I get it, but all I'm saying is as many things that you can do at once will of course make it that much easier. Cutting up for one thing, you can be cutting up for something else. So that's how I do the vegetables. The other thing that I always have is I will have multiple trays of roasted vegetables that I'm putting in. So salad, got the raw vegetables, and I'm also doing trays of roasted vegetables. And I never do one tray. If I can do one tray, I can do 2 trays. And the stuff that I eat for dinner on Sunday nights, great. But then I have a whole entire tray that I can use for lunches tomorrow, or for dinner tomorrow night, or the next day. So if you have not discovered roasted vegetables, I definitely encourage you to do so. So the key I found when you're roasting vegetable is you want to use as many new things as possible. We tend to get stuck in a rut. Maybe we used a lot of white potatoes in the past, or carrots and so on. But there are so many more things that you can do. 2 of my favorites that people love over time, especially in this detox, is I love to cut up pieces of broccoli and cauliflower. So cauliflower and broccoli look really great on their own roasting pan because they cook for about the same amount of time. And it's almost like the longer you cook this, the more caramelized and yummy that it gets. So I would definitely move towards some of these cruciferous vegetables. Of course, sweet potatoes are always delicious, and they're well within the low sugar detox. So I will chop these up. Keep in mind when you are making roasted vegetables that everything cooks for a slightly different time. So if you are putting some of these heavier stocked items in there, know that you're gonna wanna make them a little bit smaller if you have other vegetables in there that cook a little faster. So something like, for example, zucchini cooks quite quickly, so I make really large chunks in there so that they kind of come out at the same time. Same thing, roasted red sweet bell pepper is delicious. I also encourage you to try different things like portobello mushrooms. They almost have a meaty consistency to them, and when you drizzle them with seasonings and with oil and so on, they really develop a really nice flavor and add another dimension. Red onion, a lot of people feel like they don't like onion, but have you tried red onion? Red onion, both cooked and raw, is a really great prebiotic, so it's really great for your gut bacteria and adds to your overall health. So putting things like this, of course carrots and so on, and there's all sorts of different other vegetables that you can put in there, but what I would say is when you're thinking about making roasted vegetables, try and think outside the box of what you've always done. Take a walk through your grocery store, or I'd say specifically your produce department, with a whole different set of eyes. Look through a completely different lens. I'll do that from time to time. I notice that I'll just buy all the same stuff I always buy, and then some days I go through and I go, what is that? I've never eaten that before. What is that? I've never tried that before. What is that? I've never had that before. And I start to try and incorporate them. Fennel is one of the ones that I've started to use a lot more of. Leeks taste delicious in roasted vegetables, all right? So when you're roasting your vegetables, I would also encourage you to start to use some fresh herbs. Fresh herbs just add, again, a whole new dimension to it. Rosemary, thyme, if you're not cooking it, I'll use basil. And then, of course, you wanna make sure you season it properly. Sea salt, sometimes I'll use curry powder. It just depends. If you really wanna bring it up a notch, especially when you're doing Brussels sprouts or cauliflower, is you can take a few strips of a healthier version of bacon, chop it up and drape it over top of your roasted vegetables, and it will be absolutely delicious, because who doesn't like bacon? All right, so that is my example of how to try and pre-prep all these vegetables that you want to be having in your diet. Roasting them, having them fresh, cut up and raw in the fridge, ready to eat at all times. Of course, making a dry salad, and if you feel really adventurous, also getting a soup done for the week, okay? That's a really nice way of doing it. Sauces and marinades go a long ways to actually zhuzh up the taste of what you're eating. There are a few dry sauces and marinades within our recipe book already. For example, you can be making homemade salad dressing, which I heavily encourage you to do. The ingredients are so much more superior. And also, at the very same time, it's a lot cheaper and has a lot less sugar in it. So making a salad dressing, making enough for the week, is something that I do on a Sunday night as well. It will last all week. Sweet paprika rub is something in here as well that I heavily encourage you to do. If you are making dry rub for this meal, at the same time, can you take a Ziploc out and pre-portion it out to have it again for something else? And then I leave those already in my spice cabinet, so the next time that I want to make that chicken dish, I already have one that's ready to use, or you can leave it, of course, in a glass jar. So just a couple ways for you to be able to pre-prep things. Making homemade pesto sauce tastes delicious to put on your protein source, but it also is really nice to be able to put in wraps or to use as a dip and so on. So those are things that I'll try and get done on a Sunday night so that they're waiting for me throughout the week. Now, when we talk about protein sources, this is a really great place for you to think about making multiple portions, because a lot of times when we're hungry, we are pre-programmed to the way we used to eat. We start thinking about snacks as in snack foods, things that are conventional, come in a package, or we think about bread products. Those are a lot of the things like crackers and so on that we used with snacks in the past. But you'll find in this program, you're gonna start to nourish your body differently. And now when you think about snacks, think about small meals or small whole food things to eat. So, having a little bit of protein that's already cooked and sitting and waiting for you in the fridge is a great way for you to stabilize your blood sugar and become satisfied. So I want you to make sure that you have those on hand. One of my biggest ones, of course, is just simply having eggs hard-boiled and waiting in the fridge for you at all times. They are the easiest snack pack to take with you on the go. 4 to 6 of them at any one time. That can be cooking on the stove while you're doing your prep on a Sunday night. Chicken, experiment with the cuts. A lot of times we think that old programming that we can't eat fat. But especially when you source your chicken properly, the skin that's on the meat and the dark meat is actually where a lot of the healthy vital fats are sitting within the actual chicken. So I want you to encourage, can you be having not just chicken breasts, boneless, skinless chicken breasts, but you can also be having ones with skin, with bone in, and also chicken thighs and whatnot. So experimenting with that, and then starting to think about what marinades can you use, what sauces can you use that are low sugar and can have fat in them, but also very much add another dimension of flavor. Flank steak, any type of grass-fed, especially type of beef, is a really great option for you. And I find that when we're choosing these cuts, we of course find them a little bit more expensive. So learning how to pre-portion them, cutting them on the bias, and having small pieces already pre-cut are great for you to be able to come to later for snacks. Ground beef, whether you're making meatballs or you're making spaghetti sauce full of all sorts of vegetables, another great option for you to have. And of course, I always make ground turkey burgers that are in our recipe book. They freeze great. They're something that I can do and pop out and have in the fridge later on. So when you are bulk cooking, I will oftentimes have several of those meals that I'm gonna have through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm gonna pre-cook the protein source. I can always heat it up later. Okay, something I definitely encourage you to do. If you are a big fan of slow cookers, or you like the Instant Pot, or you like one-pot meals, use that to your advantage. That's a really great way for you to be able to create massive amounts of food that are well within the confines of the program. Smoothies. We have lots of smoothie recipes in our detox booklet. Smoothies are great. They can be that instant breakfast that you were hoping for. They can also be a great mid-afternoon snack. Great for around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to stabilize your blood sugar and make it so when you drive home, you don't rush in the door and just eat whatever food you can find in the cupboards. And that is a perfect example of bulk cooking. You can pre-portion and pre-do your smoothies the night before. It's something that I often do, and I put them in my mason jars. And I have some for the morning already blended and ready to go. I shake it up, drink it on my way into the clinic in the morning, and I'll have a smaller version that I also put into the fridge at the clinic, and I'll have mid-afternoon. So bulk cooking doesn't just have to be the things that we're talking about when we're talking about protein, we're talking about vegetables. It can also be the hydration that you're wanting to have throughout the day. Same thing with elixirs. I can put a lot of the components in a small Ziploc bag, take it to the clinic, I add hot water, quickly blend it, and that's what I can have at the clinic. So thinking in all the different ways that you can start to minimize the extra work will start to make this feel like not that you can only manage the 40-day detox, but you can make this continue on into your lifestyle, which is ultimately the goal for all of this. One of my last tips before we end this segment is, if there was one thing that I do at the dinner time that helps me the most, it is opening up my drawer down here. As we are portioning out dinner for tonight, I'm already thinking about what we're gonna all eat for lunch tomorrow. So my kids eat leftovers and have ate leftovers in their lunch since day one. And what I do is I just make sure I have lots of really easy ways to be able to transport food. This helps a lot. So if I am portioning out everybody's dinner, at the very same time that I'm doing it, I am plopping it in the containers that's gonna go in the fridge that form the basis for tomorrow's lunch. Okay? So those are some of my bulk cooking ideas. There'll be more coming out as the program grows on, but this will give you a huge head start.